Hi there, guys. My name's Marie, and I make costumes. Now, I came back from a really long cosplay hiatus because I am obsessed. I am obsessed 110% with the magicians. I've listened to the audiobook of all the books, and I've watched the show. And after I finish this tutorial, so excited. And after I finish this tutorial, I am totally going to go and watch the musical episode, which I am 110% stoked for. So, to be humble, the cosplay community in the Pacific Northwest and then the West United States in general is like legit, and there's so many talented artists making incredible stuff. So for me, like, I understand that you're not, even if you make beautiful work, it's not always going to stand out. Like, that's just the reality of. So for me to make a costume on such a small budget and considerably simple materials, I was just blown away that people liked it so much. I guess the design is cool, and so I just want to share with you today how I did it. It's really simple, but you know what? I'm lazy. I'm truly, deeply a lazy person, and hold on, I'm deciding whether that's a true statement or not. I'll think about it later. Anyways, so I'm gonna do it on MS Paint for you. I'm gonna do this tutorial on MS Paint. That's what's happening. I'm sick. I'm in bed. And then I'm going to go watch The Magician. So journey with me as I explain the process of this fantastic costume. Was that a sentence? Moving on. So first things first, our base armature is made of chicken wire. So let me see if I can do that in Paint. Making some chicken wire. It looks a little bit like this. It comes in different sizes, but I think I got mine about 1 inch across so that it would have a big enough space to see through. It wouldn't have a lot of wire to cover. So the right ratio of negative space to wire. And then I strategically covered the chicken wire mesh with the butterflies in a randomizing, rotating pattern. So I might have, oh, I'm sorry, I called them butterflies. Yeah, that's gonna happen a lot. So there's a butterfly there. Dang it, I did it again. There's a moth there, there's a moth there, covering the wire. But I still have these spaces to see through. So I would say I had about 40% visibility, which is like good enough to walk around a con and freak people out with, but not so good that I didn't have to like stop and make sure I was getting on the escalator properly and not like missing a step and smashing my face in. But thankfully I didn't fall down any stairs that weekend. So I consider it a success. So what I did was I just took a sheet of chicken wire and I turned it into a cylinder. Hot glued the seam where the edges met and then fit it over top my head to make sure that I had room for my glasses and my nose and nothing would be smushed and I could easily take it off and on. And then I cut a sort of zigzag triangle pattern out, sort of like a beach ball. You know how the beach ball tapers in so that you can get the dome at the top? I did that with the helmet. This is going great. And hot glued any of the sharp scratchy bits so they wouldn't cut my face. And then once that base was done, I just started to put all the butterflies on it. Dang it, I called them butterflies again. I just feel like moths is such an awkward word to say. Moths. Butterflies is more crisp. What can I say? Crisp, like biting into a pair of hands. It doesn't matter how you make your thousands and thousands of repetitive shapes, but if you have a laser cutter, it helps. Thankfully, my friend had a Glowforge and was willing to help me with this project, so he was able to cut the outline of every single moth that we used in the project. Unfortunately, we couldn't pre-print the moths on cardstock and then cut them out because, one, the cardstock was too thick for the printer, and two, the cutting process wouldn't line up correctly with the pre-printed outline. So like they would get all, off kilter. They wouldn't cut correctly. But what we decided to do was custom engrave a stamp to match the outline, because the outline was sourced from a picture of a hawk moth online. And so what we just did is we converted that image to an SVG file for the Glowforge to engrave. And because my friends are insanely smart, they were able to fabricate a custom stamp in like half an hour, which I just, to this day, I cannot fathom how brilliant that was, because it was like the first try too. Like, he did it in the first attempt, and it smelled nasty, and it looked gross and charred, and it smelled gross and charred, as this image, I'm sure, indicates. It looks very black and burnt, but it wasn't vulcanized, which means the rubber wasn't hardened to a point where it was useless. It was awesome, and it worked great. So while we saved a lot of time cutting, it was still a very tedious and laborious process to hand stamp the front and back of each. I just, yeah, glued them on there. Another few important bits to know are the fact that it wasn't just a base, right, of moths, right? That was the initial layer. But then I started to glue wire and have it circle around in varying loops to create the illusion of motion, and to also have the moths be concentrated on the inside and then slowly disperse outward as they went away from the center to give, a realistic look. And thankfully, I feel like that was achieved. It wasn't as a smooth of a gradient as I probably would have liked, but I think it looked really good. And it also helped with the illusion and the obscuration, I should say, of my face, I guess. I don't know. What else should I mention? Oh, yes. So in the dome, I also applied a loop of weather stripping. So, blah, 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 how do I do this? There we go. So, here's the dome upside down, the helmet, right? So on the base, there was a strip of weather stripping so that when my cute little head was in there, it wouldn't sit all lopsided. It would, thankfully it was so light and generally symmetrical all the way around that it didn't have any weight imbalance issues, but that also provided a sense of security so that it wouldn't slip around on my head. So that's literally it. It's just one strip of weather stripping, one little cylinder of chicken wire, hot glue, and a crap ton of paper cardstock moths. Okay, that's not true. There was also the stamp ink and the stamp. But if you don't have access to a laser cutter, otherwise I guess hand cut them. Other than that, it's a pretty simple project, and I'm glad that I got a lot of appreciation and support for it. Yeah, have a great day, guys. I will see you soon. Let me know what you make.